Alrighty, we're on our way to see Jim. We've been here a few times and he hasn't been around, but we've noticed, we've been watching his videos and he's restored a motorcycle and we want to come out and see it, or I want to come out and see it. And maybe we'll make a video with him explaining what he's done to it, what it is, and all that sort of stuff. And hopefully that he's really excited to talk about it, because he's done a fantastic job on it. He's done a fantastic job on that little car right there. That little car looks good. This little, I better say it right, Cobalt. Looks fantastic. If I don't run into the front of it. I'm not sure, but we'll see what's going on. It looks like the doors are both shut. The doors down the shop are shut. We'll see what's going on. He's not down the shop, is he? Hello! Can-Am gas tank. Jimbo! I don't think he's up and at her yet. Door shut.
Might be down there.
Huh?
Might be down there.
He's not down there. Door shut. Got the thing up against it. You know what I mean?
Off and on, up and down, up and back to sleep since 3 o'clock.
Why? Because you feel like it?
Yeah, up at 3, and then after a few minutes I go back to bed, then went back to sleep. Then anyway, I just went back to sleep.
So you got a motorbike all restored, man.
Yeah, getting there. It's been a bit of a battle. The older Hondas have cracked hubs. All of them.
All of them.
This is my workbench in the house.
This is your
that's a Can-Am sprocket. Unattainable to buy a 42 tooth Can-Am sprocket. Anyway, I found one in England that was $100, including shipping, no COD. It's cheaper to buy things from England than it is the United States.
Could you not get that cut?
Maybe, but not for $100.
Sure.
That's for fucking sure. Maybe $300. Yeah.
You come right up.
Yeah.
That's reference sure.
Yeah.
I've seen you polishing them
Oh
things.
yeah, I still have old gas in here.
Yeah.
Like, little bit. I have to put something in it and soak it for a while.
But they weren't that nice when you got them, and you that was like that.
No, this is one company, and they come that way.
Yeah.
This one I spent. I spent a little while sanding this. The problem with these is they're gas contaminated. Ruins them. So
What do you mean gas contaminated?
Gas goes right through them. Even back in the day, the stickers in the paint job never lasted, and if you let the bike sit, it'd make blisters on the surface and turn it yellow. Anyway, if you hold it up to the light around the cap, you see a little bit of texture, dull and shiny.
Yeah, I guess.
That's contaminated. That was yellow, and on this tank, when I sanded it, it went white. But I can't get the shine. It won't shine. It's contaminated plastic. It won't shine. But that's polished up with Mother's chrome polish with a buffer, your DA actually. And,
I've seen you using that. I said, right
so
on.
anyway, how do you put it? The corroded areas from the gasoline contaminate plastic. On this tank, they turned yellow. It came off. It's also the plastic, you can feel a little bump there. That's a little tiny bit of it.
Yeah.
It's harder than the plastic.
Did you get these from Bubby Trask?
What?
Bubby Trask, Dwayne Trask, out in Kingston? Did you get? Is that where you get
that?
No. He had a couple of them, didn't he?
Yes, this might have came from there. Yes. Yeah, he wanted too much for them, but I got them down a little bit, but they weren't really worth that much. But I did get a couple parts, so in a way, I got my money's worth. Mm-hmm. But
this one looks nice.
So anyway, back to this. This tank, it did come off, but it came off hard, and it turned white in the end. Well, these, before I can put stickers on, has to be perfectly clean inside, and then I have to coat the tank. And the coat keeps the gas from coming out to ruin my new stickers.
Yeah.
And I haven't got back to it. Well, I sanded on this for a few hours. These are one company. So anyway, I sanded on this for a few hours. This is what it looked like, dull.
Yeah.
And I sand it and sand it and sand it like 15, right from 240 up to 1500 for hours. That's part of the reason why my hand's gone. So anyway, I buffed with with that DA and that my rubbing compound for half an hour on this fender, and that's as shiny. I did not get it shiny. So then I bought the mother's chrome polish, and 2 minutes.
Chrome
right here.
polish?
Yeah, magnesium polish or mag wheel, like metal polish, actually. They didn't have any chrome polish, technically. Like on the internet, you see the word chrome. Well, at the store here, it's not chrome, it's metal.
Mothers work better than...
That didn't touch it at all. Would not cut it. Any of that. Now, the John Deere tractor, I had scratches, and 2 minutes with the buffer, gone.
This did it?
Yep.
No problem whatsoever.
Softer plastic.
Okay.
Well, this is hard like glass. Anyway, for some reason, the mother's polish on the buffing thing, 1 minute, 1 to 3 minutes, I had that much gloss. That's as glossy as this company's fender, which came that way.
That's nicer, isn't it?
Right? Well, they came that way. This company doesn't come that way. This is how shiny they are. So anyway, 3 minutes, and that turned. Oh, my Lord, this is going to be easy. This is good. Turned around, 3 hours buffing, and can't get shine. 3 hours. I even went back to sanding at 3,000, and then I buffed for 3 hours. Now, this fender, to make this fender to match this fender, this had a slightly different texture to it. 2 days of sanding and buffing. And you can see it has less sand, less polish. Anyway, I gave up. I can't get that. And that's as shiny as that'll come. The gas tank, sand it down. Once you get the contaminated areas off, if you can, to turn them white, and you sand out your scratches, it buffs within 2 or 3 minutes. Done. Softer plastic. But this is harder plastic than the front fender, and it will not sand. It's like it won't buff up, it won't shine. So that's as shiny as that
now
gets.
I'm going to ask you another question. Why 2 sets? You got 2 motorcycles?
Actually, I bought 3 sets. I only need 2 sets, but I plan on building more than 2 bikes. Yes,
one for me and one for Jolene?
No.
No?
One for me, and one for me, and one for me. And I'm not going to drive. Just hear them run.
Yeah.
Novelty. They're pretty, and
a
little bit of driving.
You used to have a bunch of them,
they're bad bikes to drive.
No, one
they
for me,
will
one
knock
for...
you on your head for no reason at any time. You don't have to do anything wrong to wipe out on one of these bikes.
Okay.
You drive to the end of the driveway and come back, turn it off, consider yourself lucky.
Sounds good to
they
me.
will turn upside down quicker.
2-stroke?
Oh yeah, definitely. But they have terrible suspension, right? Terrible suspension. They're heavy, old school, and at the best of times, if you get out, like I used to drive like a crazy man, and I would wipe out on purpose. Practice wiping out, practice laying the bike down at high speeds, doing wheelies. I had a rule when the front wheel was in the air, never to let it down. I went over backwards every time I did a wheelie because I would not let the front end down unless I ran out of trail. If I ran out of trail and had to make a 90-degree corner, I'd let it down for the corner and then right back up. Quite often, I'd go in the woods. But anyway, we'd race down apple rows, like rows of trees. And at the end, I pretty well always won because I had no problem going into the woods and wiping out. Well, my practice of all my on-purpose wipeouts gave me the ability to survive the accidental ones.
There you go.
I knew how to land and how to get off the bike and how to go between trees and how to hit rocks at 50 miles an hour.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, that's this company, the back company. So anyway, I'll show you my other fenders. Stay here just 1 sec.
Me and Jolene are going to take the bike course this weekend coming. Me, Jolene, and Colton.
So anyway, this back fender, I sanded and buffed on this for a day, and I didn't quite get it as good. But this fender I have not touched. That's what they came like. Feel that little bit of a pebble to it?
Yeah.
Well, this had more pebble, so I sanded that off. I spent hours sanding that off, and I buffed it for an hour. And this is original. This is the same as the doll ones over here, but these are duller. But that's before I touched it. That's
the original fender?
No, they're aftermarket.
I see that.
There's no such, no, this, I think what happened was they sent me somebody's return. Because they don't come with holes, and this one did. And it's warped. It's got a couple warps, and if you happen to line it up just right, it'll probably, it sits crooked. It probably has a curve to it when it's on the bike. Anyway, after the guy drilled it, he put it on the bike, didn't like it, so he sent it back. And I bought it, and they sent it to me. But me being me, I kept it. So, but the point I'm making is this one I never sanded or buffed. That's how it came.
Yep.
And this, of course, is the other company's.
That's beautiful. The other company.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Same
Yes.
well,
No.
it looks a little wider,
yes,
doesn't it?
because this they made theirs wider than original. This is
Will that
more.
fit in between the forks?
Oh yeah. Even that one almost fits. But no, that's not the problem. The problem is this is not actually authentic.
Which one's authentic? Well, neither of them are authentic.
Well, this looks authentic. This is how narrow they were. But this, I guess, is the Bombardier mold. But it was the military bike 10 years later. And they made the fender wider. And anyway, this company bought their molds, but it's not the white Can-Am. It's a green military Can-Am, which had wider front fender. So they made their white fenders and they're selling them. Well, anyway, it has a nice shine, and I don't know how they did it. But anyway, it has a nice shine. But this one I never sanded or buffed, and this one was rougher. This was rougher than this, so I sanded on this, and I gave up on it. But I got it not too bad.
Jolene just
but I
asked me-
sanded for days on those, and not much success. And I sanded quite a bit on this, but I only buffed it. Minimum buffing, like 2, 5, 10 minutes of buffing, and it's done. It's softer plastic, like the John Deere.
Could you clear coat them?
Yes, and as soon as the clear coat dries, and you say you do fall over at the end of the driveway,
Scratch.
and the fender, it'll chip off. I don't think the clear coat can handle the flex that the plastic has in a wipeout. Everything's fine. It's like someone.
It would look good sitting there, though.
Yes, and it's same idea as the plastic additive people say to put in your plastic bumpers on a paint job on your car. Yeah, it's not so much that the paint will crack on its own. If the bumper gets bumped a little bit, the paint won't necessarily be able to bend with the rubber and come back and survive. But it's like you said, if it gets bumped enough to push the bumper in and back out, pretty good chance it's going to crack the bumper or bend something, because the paint job on a car is the most delicate. It's more delicate than the interior. Look, like you have your groceries and you set them like a box or a bunch of bags on top of the car and you slide it towards you, there's a whole bunch of scratches. Well, nothing's more delicate than that. So technically, if I paint, I wouldn't really have to clear coat them. Well, they are white, but the problem is this is my only white gas tank. The
There's one right
Can-Am,
there?
yeah, and that one's yellow contaminated. It won't come off. That's another story.
Paint it white and then clear coat it.
Well, I could paint them all white, because the gas tanks I have out in the yellow or out in the garage are more yellowish. They're a cream color. Most of the gas tanks are yellow. The new fenders are white, so you can't buy a new gas tank. So basically, your fenders are bright white and the gas tank is yellowish, and it doesn't look good. So if you paint
Smoke cigarettes.
The plastic, and you drive in the dirt and you fall over and that fender bends, the paint's going to chip off the fender, and then it looks real shitty, with chipped off plastic paint.
Is that new?
Yes. I have to.
Can I pick it up and look at it?
Yeah, it's a nice seat, but the only problem is, they did not have the bike there when they fitted it. They did an excellent job making the bottom.
Okay.
It's all new and powder coated, and everything's exactly right, perfect. But the foam is too hard in the front, and my gas tank goes straight up and down, and all this foam is too much, and you can't put the seat on. The only thing I can do is risk ruining the cover, bend all these tabs back and take the foam off, cover off, and redo the foam, or...
You gotta be able to push it back far enough.
No,
Can't.
Nope. The gas tank straight up, and the seat's on an angle. And the original seat is half as high. Original seat stops right there. And doesn't have any foam here and nothing. All this is too much. So the only thing I've been thinking to fix it is take like a drill up through here, as long as my finger, and go back and forth and grind out the foam with a drill until there's no foam in there. And then that goes all spongy loose, but leave the foam here for this to stay its shape, and then put it on and see if the gas tank will push this in effortlessly. And I mean really seriously effortlessly, because this is on a little tiny hinge back here that doesn't like to be manipulated. And if it is, it'll pull the seat off to one side. But anyway, if that can be weakened, all that foam is way too hard. That should be as hard as this. Nothing. Like absolutely nothing right there, because originally there was nothing there, and they put the seat on an angle because all seats are on an angle. Well, the seat's supposed to be straight up and down because the gas tank's straight up and down.
What you have to pay for that?
This was $100 off. It was $300. Came from Vietnam.
Jolene's being
$600 in the States. And $300 from Vietnam.
So $300 to buy it, $300 to get it here.
No, $300 complete.
Okay.
No COD.
That's not a bad.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
$600 from the States by the time you pay the COD. It's cheaper to buy from England, Australia, Thailand, China than it is United States. So, way cheaper, half as much. But quite often the things I'm looking for are not over there. They're only in the States. So anyway, I think if I go up there with a drill, see if I bend all these tabs.
We call that liposuction.
If I bend all these tabs, take the seat cover off, manipulate it back over, redo the foam, bend it all back, some of those tabs are going to break, and you have to sew every hole back up because it doesn't, like a new hole, it'll rip beside the old hole and the new hole, and then you end up with a big hole and it would look like shit. So anyway, rather than tamper with that or any of this design, if you reach up in there with a drill bit and just drill all the foam out so it's weak, then it'll go on the bike, slide down on the hinge and go click, and it should be all right. But I haven't got around to the guts to ruin the foam all up in there with the drill. And the drill can't be long enough to catch and go out through the cover. And the drill also has to be able to cut the foam out, not just go in and bend and make a little tiny hole. I need a sharp enough sideways drill that'll cut kind of like a...
You got me all anxious now. I want to go downtown and take a look at them.
A triple-edged drill on the side that will go in and actually rip foam out, because the foam has to come out. That is 200%, 500% too hard.
500%.
If it was nothing there, like absolutely nothing, like
couldn't you just pair your pliers, just keep pulling?
No, way up to here, right up to the top. It's the top is the problem, not down here. All this should not be there, is what I'm saying.
I understand.
The seat should be straight up and down.
But once you haul foam out of here, that's going to fall.
No, this foam is hard. It's going to stay right there. It's hard foam.
Okay.
Very, very stiff foam.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll move. I think it has to go up in there and literally literally be carved out, and then that goes super weak, and then when it goes closed, the gas tank will touch this line because the gas tank is at this angle right here, not this angle. That's the problem. These were made for, it's customary to have that angled for the tank, but unfortunately...
Maybe you can cut the tank and beat the tank in a little bit.
No, that's not going to happen.
No? It's not going to happen?
No. Anyway, the nightmare here is most of the gas tanks are yellowish. The fenders are white. So I have 2 gas tanks that were white. One, I can't save that one. That one, the yellow spots on top will not come off. This, they did come off, but now I have to clean out the gas residue inside, the old stinky gas.
Jeez.
Before it can be tank coated.
You got 3 bikes, you'll have to try one with paint.
Well, the only problem with paint is...
when you crash.
If the fender gets broke or bent, it will chip the paint. Yeah. The same as
but it would sit there and look nice though, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it would. And the stickers the paint and the stickers, whatever you do on the outside, has to be coated on the inside with tank coat, because the gasoline goes right out through here and lifts and bubbles the stickers. And it was a problem right from day one.
I
sanded that off.
You sanded that off? Okay.
Yeah.
Because you can't get it off?
No, don't need it off.
You're just going to stick it right over top of it?
The sticker is solid. It's a solid sticker.
So you're going to right over top of that sticker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the stickers are solid. You can't see through the sticker. So the sticker goes and covers... Oh, yeah, I'll grab a sticker.
Grab a sticker?
Yeah.
I like the airplanes.
See, it's a solid sticker. It's a one-piece solid sticker.
That one out there is a 2-piece sticker, it looked like to me.
Well, that's a different year.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
How many years they make these things?
2.
2 years.
75 and 77. I'm only talking the 250s, though. But that goes on there. And see, it covers that, right?
Yeah.
So, and I didn't bother sanding it anymore because it doesn't need to be
What's one
off.
of these worth in top condition?
$10,000.
$10,000.
In Nova Scotia.
Are you going to build it less than
$6,000 in BC, $3,000 or $5,000 in the States.
Are you going to be able to build it for less than $10,000?
No. No. I've already got $10,000 invested. And I'm nowhere near done.
Is that including
the parts are expensive.
Well, I would say.
Yeah, parts are expensive.
I'm going to stick with cars. If I
got $2,000 invested in stickers and fenders.
Holy.
Kickstarter's $350. Know what I mean?
They're nickel and diming.
A piston, cylinder bore, crank rebuild, and bearings is $2,000 to $3,000.
Have you got that done yet?
No.
Oh, wow.
No, the motor, the bike I bought, the motor's done.
Okay.
The guy has a good reputation, so I'm counting that everything in the mechanics inside the motor is done to spec.
Okay.
Like perfect.
You bought this bike in PEI?
Yeah. He did not have a refinement when it came to outside the bike. He didn't care if there were scratches, digs, chips.
He wanted to run.
His idea, I think, was drive him in the rocks and the mud, fall over, and do damage. So he was more of a mechanic because I don't think he sanded the frame when he painted it. And he painted it with undercarriage, rust check, gloss, hide paint with the pebbles in it.
Okay.
With the chunky paint so that it hides all the imperfections.
Right.
That's what he painted the frame with. And it looks so radical, I'm leaving it. But it's not really what I'd do myself. But since it's already done, and it's shiny but rough, it looks so radical, I'm leaving it.
Let's go take a look at it.
I got to grab my coffee. But that tank out there has yellow spots on it. And the yellow spots, I sand it for like an hour or two with 150 wet. And in one spot, I even went with 80 grit sandpaper. The yellow is right straight through to the other side, and the yellow will not come off. So technically, it needs to be painted, which means in order to paint it, because gasoline seeps right through these tanks and ruins anything on the surface, you've got to tank coat it.
Did you throw out there in your videos that you're looking for one, a Can-Am?
No. No. Actually, a few people even sent me info where they're for sale here.
Yeah.
Most of them are not in Nova Scotia. They're either in Ontario, Alberta, BC, or Pennsylvania, or Texas,
Somewhere's not close.
Utah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not here. And here, years ago, were all cleaned out by people from other places with a little more money, would drive down with a great big trailer and buy everybody's collections and take them off to Ontario
I
or
think
something.
Bubby had a
Yeah,
collection, did he not?
Yes, and I had a collection. They all disappeared and went out of the province.
Okay.
But as I said, here they're worth more to buy, more to build, and not worth as much to sell because
Yes.
there's nobody here to buy.
Right.
So if you want one, you have to pay. It's almost like we live in Cuba, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I'm going to get my coffee going. Well, my mug's over here. Anyway, the water pump for 5-6 years, every week or 5 days or something, would airlock, and I'd have to go down and it wouldn't turn off, and I'd have to go down and turn it off.
Yeah.
Manually. And then a few days later, I could turn it back on, and it was fine for another week. Well, a year ago, I rebuilt a pump and put it in. No more leaky air pump. But every week, airlocked. So I'd go down, turn it off, drain off some water, and the hot water tank, it wouldn't be airlocked because I don't use that much water in the hot water. So basically I drain off a few jugs for drinking, and then in a few days time I'd go down, turn on the pump, and be fine. So the last 6 months, no problem. The water pump worked fine all winter. Last week I turned on the water one day, nothing but air. So I had to go down and turn it off. Well, last night I turned it back on, and the water pump after a week still held 20 pounds pressure. So I didn't have to prime it. I just had to turn the switch on, the pump, and immediately went bang, 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 right up to 45 pounds pressure with all kinds of clean water. Now I don't know if this air problem is going to come back because I went 6 months with it with no problem. But before that,
Keep your fingers crossed.
before that, 5-6 years of 2 or 3 times a month, I had to turn it off and back on again for 5-6 years.
That must be nice.
And I went 15 years and never touched the pump. The first 15, like forever, never touched the pump. It worked 24 hours a day, like it on and off, and I never had a problem until it was dripping a whole lot. And wouldn't,
It needed help.
it would turn on every 15 minutes because it was dripping so bad. So I rebuilt a pump, and ever since I rebuilt the pump, I've had this problem with air. And I finally rebuilt a pump where it takes a little longer for it to pump up, but it doesn't seem to be pumping air, but my air tank or water tank is still getting airlocked. But it was 6 whole months where everything went fine, and then all of a sudden I had 1 day with air. So yesterday I turned it back on. Now I'll just see how long I can go before it's airlocked again. But
Make your coffee.
now this pump is tight enough. I don't need the lamp. It will build up 45 pounds pressure in air and turn off the pump.
That's a good
Air.
thing.
Fill the entire cold water tank full of air at 45 pounds pressure and turns off the pump, so I don't have to worry about it burning down the house. But I
That's a
turn
good
on the
thing.
tap, there's nothing but blowgun air with the little spits of water.
And blowgun air.
Yeah, just the same thing as out in the garage. Turn on the air compressor and blowgun, it's the same thing. Turn on tap, nothing but air and little spits of water at 45 pounds pressure, and the water pump is turned off. So at least the pump is working good, but maybe I need a new cold water tank. But anyway, I'm going to fill this up. I'm running on empty.
Of coffee, that is?
Yeah. Oh, it's a drag hurting your hand because you can't do anything.
I understand
Everything you do, it takes 2 hands pretty well. But anyway, it's
Hope it's not affecting your leisure time. And you bought a Honda too, right?
I've been looking for years for SL 350. There's none here, none around here, because we never had a Honda dealer in Nova Scotia in 1970. 1975 and 74, when the XLs came out, that's when Chris Robson started Mud Creek.
Yeah.
But there was no such thing as, I never seen one here. And I've been into bikes like all my life. And I never seen SL. I seen pictures of them. Anyway, when I got the internet, I saw more pictures, so I'd look at them and whatever. Oh, wouldn't I like to have one of them?
Yes.
But they're all everywhere else, but not here. Anyway, this going through Marketplace one day at 5 o'clock in the morning, there one was for sale in Middleton, and I kept strolling by, and within just maybe 10 seconds, oh my Lord, that was SL 350. And I zoomed back, oh my Lord, and I made a comment, are you home right now? I'm about 20 miles away. And a lady answered back and she says, I don't like talking on these machines, but yes, we're home. So then I gave her my phone number
because really good.
She felt a lot more comfortable talking on the phone. And so I gave her my phone number. She gave me a call and we talked. Anyway, I stopped at the bank and got my maximum allowance, $300 is all I can take out at the bank at one time. So I went up with $300 and he was there. He opened up this garage. He said, I'm selling it because I got too many projects. And oh, don't video me from here down because I got tar stuck to my inside bottom of my pants from being on the roof. And Mom said, oh, don't ever wear those pants. So anyway, I still wear them. So be careful not to video me from too far a distance.
I want to see.
No, fuck off. So anyway, when he showed me this bike, he says, yeah, I'm selling it. I got too many projects. There was no projects in his property. Not one project. At all. In his garage, a 2-car spotless garage with tools all lined up. He had a John Deere tractor sitting there in mint brand new condition, and I couldn't even tell how old it was. Not a speck of dirt on it. No tools, and this bike. He was the type of person that he could work on a project, but the second that project was done, it had to be liquidated. He couldn't handle entertainment to just drive around. He did drive it down the road, he said, and then he decided to sell it just like that. So anyway, I looked at it and said, this thing is beautiful. And I immediately, before he even opened up his mouth and talked about the bike, he was still talking about projects. And he just had a phobia. He couldn't have projects. He couldn't have things around. Like I have projects, and I don't really give a rat's ass if I ever finish anything or not. I do what I do day to day. I can't afford insurance to drive them all. And last year I had the Laser on the road, and I only drove it 1 tank of gas. So that was like $100 a drive just for red tape.
Yeah.
Because I never drove it. Like $100 worth of gas, $500 worth of insurance, that's $600 for $100 worth of gas. Because that's all I drove.
Sometimes
right?
you don't think of it that way.
I only drove it once a month and I didn't go far.
What you do? You make
that? Oh,
you
had to get in close. Here, open that door. Yeah. Well, anyway, it kind of sucks. I can't drive all these vehicles, so same as you got a whole bunch of things. Everybody says,
haven't drove any of them.
Get them done, finish something. Well,
haven't drove any of them.
If you had the lifestyle where everything had to be finished, you would not be starting new projects all the time.
No. Did you make that?
Dad did, actually.
For taking off tires?
Motorcycles.
Motorcycle tires?
It's not for car tires.
Not for car tires?
No. Not for car tires.
Look at this now.
But I'm tired of polishing, sanding and buffing, and sanding and buffing and polishing. And
that
buddy,
looks nice. That looks nice. Well done.
That is I junked 7 wheels to get good spokes for two wheels.
You even buy new tires.
Oh yeah, I know.
You're not messing around, are
This
ya?
is one wheel, and that's the back wheel. I junked 7 wheels to get those spokes. They're all rusty spokes on every one, and I took apart 7 wheels. That's part of the reason why my hands are sore. And unstuck all the spoke nuts, and I had enough good spoke nuts that cleaned up, and it gave me 2 sets of spokes for the front and the back with no rust. So there they are. Or I could have spent like $800 and had them made, but you can't buy Can-Am spokes. You can have them made, and they're about $800. So rather than spend $800, I spent 2 months breaking down rusty wheels and collecting up and polishing enough to do 2 wheels, and these are original rims. I had 1 back rim and 1 front rim that had no rust, and there it is. So new bearings and polished up semi. But those are not new spokes. Those are the ones that survived without rust in amongst all the rusty ones that I picked out and managed to make a set. The Honda was a little cheaper. I was able to buy cheap rims, and I was able to buy cheap spokes. Matter of fact, I even had to buy 2 sets because I couldn't use the original hubs because I had to replace the hub because of so-called cracks, which are actually not, I've been told they're not cracks, they're casting flaws. But when we were in the house, I should have showed you the front hubs, but we were talking about Can-Am fenders. But the front hub had cracks on every spoke hole out to the edge, including the edge, and on the back had the same. So I bought a new front hub, and it had cracks on every spoke hole out to the edge. And due to me being how I am, I didn't send it back. Came from Thailand. It was $300, but I didn't send it back. I still have it.
Can I sell you something?
No, I'm learning. So anyway, this is my second best hub. I've invested in 3 of these hubs. This one's pretty good. There's a crack right there.
Yeah.
Crack, right? And there's
that's not going to hurt, though, is it?
That's what everybody says. The one that I took off my bike, the cracks were on every hole, and some of the cracks were coming up here because the bike was used. Well, that's the same crack. You drive it 20,000 miles, and it's going to crack right up to the edge because cracks don't stop. Same as in a windshield. A crack is a crack. So anyway,
crack is a crack.
This is my second best hub, and then the next day, my next one came in. They had no cracks, so that's the one I polished up and put on the bike. And the back hubs were the same. But the back hubs, all the SL hubs are a little bit smaller, and people restoring these SLs over the last 20, 30 years cleaned the market. So all you could get was CBs and CL hubs, which are bigger, and some of them being bigger and heavier didn't crack. So I finally found a hub that has minimum cracks, and I polished it up. So I had to make the spacers and modify things and buy another set of spokes to fit because the hub's bigger. So after an ordeal of $1,000 and 2 months of hell, I managed to get 2 hubs and my spokes all together and spacers made, and I had to also modify the brake hookup because the CL has a different brake assembly, so I had to buy another cable to down route it instead of uproot it, which everything, when you start modifying, it sets off a chain reaction of more modifying until you're done, unless you do it like Chad does. Visual only, yeah, looks great, go on to another project. But to stay there and finish all that detail, he would not be going on to other projects. He'd be stuck there for fucking here forever. Even your automatic cars with a four-speed sitting here, but it's an automatic with no safeties. That's no good. Because you're driving down the road and you go to pull back and low and you go into reverse, you just took out the rear end or ruined the transmission. But if you don't drive it, no problem. But in race world, they have lock gear shifters that won't go. Like when you go from first to second, it's a guaranteed second. It doesn't go into drive. No chance of hitting reverse or neutral. Well, when you change things around and you don't put in those little safeties and have the proper gear, you just, like if you had to fiddle with gear shifter to find drive, it's not really foolproof. Like it's not idiot proof. Like cars are made idiot proof. Anybody can drive a car. Like my little Cobalt, if you accidentally put it in reverse, you don't take out the transmission. It just goes click, 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 click until you stop. Then you put it in gear and away you go. It doesn't even hurt it. But you do that to an old muscle car and you're $4,000 later, you got the transmission all apart and you're putting in new gears and new pins and well, when you build cars, I've seen your shifters. Some of them you do for performance, but a lot of them are
I haven't
for
put a shifter in
style.
so long.
But a lot of them are more for style than they are for usability. So
Everything I do is for the way it looks.
yeah, and style and good.
Is this two-stroke?
No, that's
I
four-stroke.
didn't think it was two-stroke.
Yeah, but anyway, not really criticizing because if you don't drive them. And you're not going to have idiots driving them or people that like in reality, I can do anything with these Can-Ams, and if I don't drive them, I'm pretty safe. But if you drive them and you go to the end of the driveway, you turn around and there's a good chance you're going to wipe out. You don't have to do anything wrong to wipe out. They're heavy. They don't handle rocks and slipperiness very well.
Oil?
Yeah. But he said the oil, the foam is out of the tank. Can-Ams had foam in their oil tank to keep it from sloshing, and the foam after 3 years broke down.
And ruined the engines.
Well, the foam didn't hurt it, but it plugged the filter in the oil line, which cuts off the oil, and that took out the motor. So he said it's defoamed. Now, I think he did it with a wire hook and pulled the foam out and then washed and flushed.
Yeah, and you put a blowgun in there and
anyway, I used to just cut a hole in it and dig it all out and then clean it up and then weld the hole back in. And there's a little more to that story also, because when you're using a torch, you're heating up the metal too much, and you get that scale on the back side, and the scale breaking off would plug the filter. So what I'd do is, since I was using a torch, now a MIG welder might be a little more forgiving on the scale on the overheated metal on the back side of the weld, but when you weld, what you do is you take your torch and heat it red hot on the edge before you put the patch, like you cut the piece out, set it over here. Then you take your torch and heat it up red hot along the edge, let it cool, and then take a little pair of vice grips and bend the edge back and forth and break all that blue scale off.
Okay. And so don't rust on the inside.
Well, no, it's not rust. So that it doesn't flake off and plug your oil line. Okay. Because after, like if you just weld it up and flush it out, put your oil in there, forever, that flex or that scale that's on the inside that you overheat your metal, the scale is still there because your flush did not take it off. You can't sandblast in there.
Right.
So basically, that a little chunk of that breaks off. It's like 1/8 of an inch square or round, and your little tiny filter anyway goes down the oil line, plugs off your oil filter, so it's doing the same thing that the foam did. So I heated it up red hot along the edge, take little vice grips and bend it back and forth after it's cold, and all that breaks off, and then I sand it, then flush the tank, and I heat the patch the same way and sand it, and see the second time you heat the metal red hot, it doesn't have the scale near as bad as the first time because the impurities are burned out, and then you carefully weld it up and flush it out, and very little dirt comes out, and then it's relatively safe. But see, you don't want the scale going in your oil line, plugging up your filter. And you can't put a big enough filter in there. It's a tiny line.
Gotcha.
And he put a white filter, but I like see-through filters. That way, if any dirt, if he missed any foam and I see it plugging up, I can replace the filter before. But the detail and the worry of getting everything right, because this is not actual just visual. I'm trying to do it authentically right so that it's not going to self-destruct itself. Know what I mean? Like this thing, I put a 52 sprocket
You're restoring it.
Yes, for use.
Yes.
But I'm not going to drive like I used to. My memory is fond on these things, right? But I don't want to take off where I left off. I really don't. I can't. I won't survive 2 minutes.
$1,000 for the tires here.
More than that. It was $1,000 for those two, and then I restored them.
Wow.
Those two aluminum ones, they came from Texas, and the pictures looked pretty good, but it was on some kind of flat track race thing.
Yeah.
And I have an idea. They sprayed the flat track. It was a dirt flat track. I think they sprayed it with chloride or something, creosote or something on the dirt track to keep the dust down, and all the spokes were seized. Every spoke was seized. I had to unstick every spoke, and they had stainless steel spokes, and I had to repaint the little nuts. But anyway, that's part of the reason why my hands are sore. But I unstuck every spoke and painted the hubs, cleaned them all up, new bearings, and put new tires on them back together. But it took me a month to do that, just those two wheels.
And another question I'm going to ask you is I'm looking around here.
But the guy wire wheeled all this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you can't, it's hard to polish aluminum after somebody's wire wheeled it. Somebody on my comments said, oh, I always use a brass wire wheel. And I can see that would be a lot better. The steel puts little scratches all down through, and you're sanding for hours to get rid of those scratches. It looks good, but if this is the finish you want, that's fine. But if you want it to look like that, you have to spend like 2 days, sand all those little scratches off, because they don't come off very easy. But I have other ones over there that have never been wire wheeled, so I think I'll take these off and polish up a couple that are easier going and then put them on and not these.
Why a new seat when that looks so good?
Well, that is a new seat cover, but I put it on, and in the process of putting it on, I wrecked it. Because those little metal pointy tabs, when you bend them twice, they break off.
Okay.
And then you've got a hole in your seat, and then it catches. And when you pull on the seat just a little tiny bit, once you put the seat on, ooh, I put it on wrong. So you pull it back, and you straighten out the little tab, and you pull the seat off. Now you've already got this vinyl ripped, and then you want to pull it down a little bit tighter on this side because you had the line crooked. And when you pull down on the seat, all of a sudden it rips like toilet paper.
It looks good though.
Once vinyl has a rip in it and you pull on it, it rips. Like, it's super easy to rip. Anyway, yes, it looks good on the top.
The paint is nice on it.
Yeah, he did a nice job on the paint.
Man.
But see what I mean? Right here, the tank goes very straight, and there's nothing right here. Absolutely nothing, and it only goes up 1 inch. But anyway, here you can see a rip in the cover. Well, this is my putting the cover on, and the foam is destroyed on this. The foam is totally evaporated foam, but I stuck it back on there and put the seat covers up everything. Very visual here on that. But anyway, the seat, the gas tank goes straight up and down. The other seat goes this high at this angle, but the tank bulges this way when my seat bulges that way. So all that foam on the other seat has to be drilled out so that that's super soft, so the seat can go up to here where my finger is. So the technicality of that, and the drill bit might go into the foam and cut a hole and take none out. And that won't do.
I don't know if you're asking for trouble or not doing that.
No, but taking the cover off, bending the clips, taking the cover off to mess with the foam and bend it back and bend the tabs again is trouble too, because you got to sew all your holes back in and redo it like a double hole side by side will rip the material, and they'll end up with the seat cover looking like this underneath.
That doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's underneath.
Underneath.
Yeah. It don't look
Well, underneath on that looks like brand new, state of the art, like show quality, which will be flushed down the toilet. I can ruin that seat in 3 minutes. I ruined this seat cover. As soon as I realized I put it on crooked, I ruined it. But anyway, the back fender was crooked last night, been crooked. And I discovered in this rubber grommet down here on the frame where the fender bolts on.
Yeah, I watched that video.
There's a grommet with a washer well hooked on to one side. On one side he pushed it in, on the other side he pushed it out. And that, at the beginning of the fender, that 1/16 of an inch made it 1/2 inch back there, so the fender was crooked anyway. I put them both in the same way, and now the taillight, everything's straight. So I'm happy, because I can't stand taillights and fenders and tires crooked, right? Like it's crucial. I'm a little bit the visual thing as well, but I like things working visual and working perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all safety's intact, like or foolproof.
It looks good,
foolproof.
Jimbo. It looks good.
Like the Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
The transmission, it's got no park. It's neutral. You have to remember it's neutral, because it's also got manual brakes that don't quite work well, because I didn't spend the money and buy new hubs. My hubs and my brake shoes don't exactly fit. So I'm running at half brake capacity, plus it's manual brakes. So it's half braking capacity. There's no way the brakes are good enough to drag a tire. And the transmission likes to stay in whatever gear it's in. The transmission likes to stay in that gear. So if you're driving along in drive and you do a slowdown, the transmission does not want to shift back into second or first until you're way slower.
Pull it down.
Well, when you pull it down, here's the problem. Neutral, drive, then this much slop, then second and first reverse. So when you pull it down, the shifter has this much play in it.
Yeah.
So here it is. It's resting on 2, but it's in drive. So yes, you can pull it down. That works for second. But if you're still coming into a stop sign and you got your foot on the brake and you want to pull it down into first, it's one little tiny bump, and then whoop, right into reverse.
Oh, then you want to hook her right to her.
Okay, well, that takes out the transmission.
No, you have.
This is a gear-driven transmission, like an automatic, and it grinds the gear going into reverse, locks up the wheel, and stalls the motor, and wrecks the transmission. It does not slip. It's a gear-driven transmission. The oil pump is on the rear end, so it bump starts like a standard. So it's old school transmission that can't take that kind of abuse. You'll ruin the transmission. So what I've discovered, when you're driving down the road and you're going to make a stop, as soon as you start to put your foot on the brake, push her all the way up into neutral, then it's down to idle. It's not in gear, and when you put the brakes on, you actually got enough power in your foot to slow down and stop. Otherwise, to override the V8 motor going and then shifting down on the transmission, which fights the brakes, which aren't quite adequate, because that's supposed to have good brakes that'll lock up at 80 miles an hour power, and there's none of that. This thing, it'll lock up the wheels, I think, on wet grass, but the hubs the brake shoes don't exactly fit the brake hubs, and they're not broken in properly, and it's manual brakes. And I think I even still got some air in the line. So the brake pedal doesn't work quite as good as it should. And the shifter is super sloppy. And if you drive, say you back out of the driveway and you're down here in reverse, you back out, and then when you put it in low, which is right down here, like one little click, and away you go, in no time at all, it'll shift into second on its own, because it's a 4-speed. First 2 gears are in low, and then it goes second, which is actually third, and then it goes drive, which is actually fourth. It's a 4-speed, but first 2 gears are in sync. They're in the same gear. You can't manually shift from first to second. First and second do it automatic. And when you move the shifter, that's actually driving into third. And when you put it in drive, that's actually fourth. So when in first gear, you hear shift into the next gear, and then you move the shifter one little click, and you're in second gear according to the shifter. And then at 40 miles an hour, she starts hitching. Oh, I'm not in drive. So then you push the shifter I've found what you do is you drive it all the way up and pull it 1 click back, and that's drive, because there's no park. But you keep forgetting there's no park.
Are you going to drive this year?
No. I got to finish all the little details like electrical, and I'm busy building Can-Ams and mowing lawns, and it's Mother's Day, so I got to go over there. I got to mow Mom's lawn sometime.
We're going to go see Jolene's mother's place.
Yeah, that's sad. My mom's almost 91, and she's not overly doing too well. She could have died 100 times since Christmas.
Oh.
Weekly. Every other day, she could easily just die. That's how weak she is. She's on her feet more than an hour. She's winded to the point where she could easily just have a heart attack and drop dead. Weak, wore out. Wore out.
Well,
her heart's wore out.
She has the
heart wore out. She's on borrowed time, so it's worth a lot. But anyway, the Oldsmobile, it could really use a nice shifter and power brakes, but it's not going to get it. But I think if you just put it in neutral and pull the brakes on, you're safe. The motor stays running, and you don't have to fight that gear down. Because the automatic gear down on these old cars, if it's not set just right, my neighbor with he has a 383 Chevelle truck, El Camino.
Okay.
64 or 63 red 383. And he kicked her down here a couple years ago, and the throttle stuck on him.
Nice.
And he pulled the brakes on. The transmission wouldn't drop back a gear, and he went through my corner at 50 miles an hour squealing up the road. Right through the stop sign. And all he had to do was turn off the key.
Yeah, well, you're not thinking of that when she's wide open.
Well, I know, and he pulled the brakes on. It came off wide open, but the revs were still up, and the transmission wouldn't shift back because he had his foot on the brake. The foot on the brake doesn't make the transmission shift back. The foot on the brake slows the motor down in revs, which eventually shifts the transmission back. So therefore, it's a delayed reaction. Anyway, he almost, if there was a car coming or if he didn't slow down enough, he would have crashed it into the ditch on the other side of that field. And this thing's in mint condition, but when he kicked it down, it went up in revs like $7,000, just tore. And then he let off the gas and it stayed there. So he pulled the brakes on, and the brakes didn't actually work. Because the motor was up in revs, and the brakes just didn't overpower it, and the transmission did not shift back because the brakes were on, because the motor was still up in revs, and where the motor was up in revs, the brakes didn't drop the throttle. Anyway, he had a hell of a time. He had the brakes on as hard as he could, and they were not dragging the wheels. There was no black lines coming off his front wheels when he was braking. His brakes were not good enough to lock up the front wheels, and the thing was still in revs, and it was resisting shifting back into second and low, and it kept the revs up, and he went right through that intersection, this stop sign at 50 miles an hour sideways going up the road. And he's like older than I am with a bad heart. It's amazing he survived. But anyway, like when we deal with safety, it's a real dangerous game, right? You can't be safe enough. But the safest thing is build these things and park them in the garage. Don't use them.
That's the safest thing, yeah. That's the safest thing. Cool,
you had
Jimbo.
to go out and use the bathroom, did you?
No, just,
No?
no.
Oh, you're going to hold it. You're going to hold it.
I'm good.
Hold it.
Hold it, hold it.
You'll be home later on.
Yes, we gotta go home.
But anyway,
Had to
I
stop
need
and
it.
see what you were
okay,
doing.
back on this Honda, I decided to run the 530, the street bike chain,
Yeah.
only because the hub was designed for it. And in order to run the 520 chain, which is thinner, I would have had to go to the machine shop and have a spacer made, another spacer made, a more expensive spacer made. So, because a ring this big around, 1/8 of an inch thick, 3/8 of an inch wide, is a little harder for the machine shop to make than one of these. They're used to making these, but a bigger thing is a little more hard.
I can understand that.
Push them through limitations bad. So anyway, I got the idea of putting the 530 chain on it. So in order to run the 530 chain, this hub wasn't lined up in the back wheel was off to one side. So I had to modify where the sprockets go on a little bit with washers to make my spacer wider to bring the hub over. And so anyway, I got that all done. Everything's looking good. But the hubs are off of street bikes, and 38 tooth is as high sped as you can get on a street bike of a 350 or a CB 350 or CL street bike has a 38 tooth sprocket. The SL wants like a 40 or 44 or bigger because it's dirt bike. So anyway, looking all over the place, non-existent. Anyway, the other day, classic Japanese motorcycles had 2 or 3 of old stock SL 44 tooth sprockets for $100 shipping included. So in another couple weeks that'll be showing up, and then I can put my new chain, new front sprocket, and this 44 tooth sprocket. See, the 530 chain idea wasn't a bad idea, but the problem was the bike it came off of was a street bike, and they didn't make big sprockets for a dirt bike, and this is a dirt bike, and I don't want it high sped. But I found an old stock 44 tooth sprocket that'll outlive me, so I'm
I wouldn't
happy.
know what sprocket from what sprocket, but
Well, if you that's a 40, but that's a 520, and it's too thin. It won't fit without a spacer made.
Okay.
And that's high sped for this bike. So I'm going 4 teeth bigger, which will be lower sped, because
Right.
I don't want
Feel
this
like
thing
more
to
power.
I don't want this to cruise at 70 miles an hour. 45 miles an hour cruising is plenty fast enough. That way, in around the driveway, in first gear, it'll have more torque, and I won't be riding the clutch quite so bad. Because some of these bikes, first gear is long. Like to drive in the driveway, you're constantly riding the clutch. It's nice to have it low enough gear that you can just idle and drive. And
I'm going to look around for one of these.
there's lots around, but not in Nova Scotia.
I'll see what happens. Let's see what happens. I'm going to see what happens.
Yes, there's none here.
I'm going to try to find one.
There's lots of them for sale.
No, I'm not paying big money either.
Nope, you're not going to find one.
You're not going to find
No.
one then. Your cars ain't got no more wood in them.
No, I burned all that.
That's good. Tell me something. If Harley,
You won't find a Can-Am.
if Harley
for any kind of price.
needed a inside handle, have you got one from one of these?
I did. I had one off. I can't remember where I put it though.
Harley's got the inside.
Look in the console.
inside handle broke on her car.
Yeah, which side?
Drivers.
Drivers. Okay. Yeah.
This thing here, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I had one extra off.
Nope.
No. Okay. And I can't remember where I put it. Maybe it's in here.
It's still working good for her though.
But I took a couple off because mine, the plastic was off, the chrome was off, so
Yeah.
I stole a couple off, couple cars here, and put it on mine.
Does she have chrome inside of her?
Yeah,
Or the
yeah.
one-
And they're they're plastic, right?
Yeah.
Even the rod, I think, is even plastic.
Well, it broke the
They break
handle,
easy.
yeah.
Yeah. I had one saved, but you never. I'm gonna have a drink of this. I have one off and saved because I accidentally took off one too many.
One too many.
Yeah, and I can't remember where I put it.
We'll be back out again sometime. She should just buy one.
They're cheap, actually.
Well, she should just buy one.
I think on internet, they're anywhere from $15 to $20, $30.
Oh, not worried about that then. Not worried about that.
Plus shipping. But I have one off, but I don't know where I put it.
Alrighty. We got the lowdown, the motorbikes. They look good, Jimbo. Look really good.
Out west, Ontario, Pennsylvania, you will find good prices on Can-Ams.
Your roof looks really good.
But that's, according to the truckers, that's 2,000 miles away. That's how much it cost. It cost $3,000 to have a pallet, 40 by 47, with one Can-Am dismantled on a pallet. A trucking company from Calgary to Nova Scotia is $3,000 for a bike on a pallet. So Ontario, I figure, would be $2,000. Pennsylvania would be $3,000 because you're crossing the border. Nova Scotia, free, because there isn't any to buy. But the guy in PEI has them for sale. I bought the one I bought mine from. I think he still has a 125 and a 175.
What's that one, a 250?
Yep. Okay.
You must have painted the trim, did you?
Only on this side. I'd like to paint the trim up there, but how do you do that? Sit on the roof and stick your hand out with a brush and paint? Because it's a lot higher up there than it is down here. Like down here, if you were sitting up there painting, oh, you be careful up there. That's about all you could say. But basically, when you're up there, you have to paint with a brush. It's nice to look at it at the same time. And just the idea of even painting with a brush, my hand's starting to hurt right now. I can't do it, so.
It's the back side of the house anyways. You want to do the front side?
Well, the front side's got the same issue. The peaks need to be painted.
Peak.
Same issue on both sides. I painted that because I had the staging there and it was easy.
Looks good.
But up there, as I said, you have to sit on the roof with the paint can and the paint, black paint, out over the edge, dripping all over the side, all over the white siding.
I can see that happening.
Yeah, so in other words, the other way is set up a staging or have one of those little car dollies that have a booth that you can step in and up 2 stories and paint it, you know, like whatever they're called, jigsaw houses that go in the air for painting. Because as I said, if you lean over the edge with your hand and a paintbrush with black paint, it's going to drip all over the side of the house, and just the curve of the house will suck every drip down, so it hits every shingle along the way.
Against your house, everything. Joanne's got some painting to do today. We're going downstairs down the other place, painting and working down there and playing and stuff.
The orange Can-Ams are a little more plentiful than the white
orange Can-Am. That's 73
to 77 are white. But the 250s were only made 75 and 77.
Why'd they skip a year, I wonder?
I don't know, but they did.
I don't know, but they did.
Yeah, they did. They skipped a year and then they stopped them in 77 and then went to the qualifier or the MX Orange bikes, which had updated more suspension and stuff, like a little more newer style.
Right on. Well, we got a soon header.
Yep.
Thanks, Jimbo, for the tour. Jimbo has a YouTube station also. It's under Jimbo Patterson.
Yeah, everybody knows.
Check him out.
Yeah. My picture on YouTube is I'm standing by the front of the Ferrari. So if there's any debate on which Jim Patterson it would be, my profile picture is the Ferrari sitting beside me.
I think you need to get that Selena Gomez shirt
in your driveway that time with the SO sign in the headlight.
Okay, cool.
But anyway, that's my photo for my profile.
All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for coming back. Really appreciate it. Get out to see Jim, but we've been out a couple times.
Oh.
You haven't been. We've been out a couple times. Well,
Sleeping.
no, we were at Truman's down here buying stuff.
Oh, okay.
Looking at his stuff a couple times. But anyways, check you all later. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you later.